What is going on YouTube? Chronos here, and welcome. I would say welcome back to PSO2, but it's not PSO2. We're covering some Final Fantasy 14 stuff. Now, I'm sure you guys are probably thinking, people have already covered these trailers. People have already talked about these things. Why are you covering it? Well, first off, one, duh, everyone's covering this sort of stuff at the moment, and I've kind of been away from the game a little bit, so I'm doing a little bit of catch up. I actually wanted to do this quite some time ago, but you know what? We figured why not just go ahead and talk about it. And two, I want to give my personal perspective on the changes that I've seen for the class that I play the most, Gunbreaker. Now, I could go through a video, like if you guys are actually curious about everything that I saw from the job actions trailer, I could do a separate video where I cover all the job actions trailer, but today we're just going to be covering Gunbreaker because that's what I have the most experience with. Now, for those of you guys who don't know about my time playing 14, I do endgame content, raid, who completed all the ultimates, so on and so forth. So I pretty much have done everything in the game outside of, like, I believe the raid content that's in Eureka and Vajda, just because I haven't grinded to do that in the first place. But I probably plan on doing that sort of stuff before Endwalker comes out, which would mean I've completed basically everything. As far as the role I play, obviously I play tank. My primary role I like to play, or the primary class I like to play the most is Gunbreaker, but I do dabble in the other tanks as well. So I know the most about Gunbreaker and its situations personally. As for why should you listen or care about anything I have to say, I do pretty decently. Like, it's not like I'm amazing at the game itself. I do hold my own. I can push numbers relatively high. And As far as reading content, I've actually finally got myself into a group that I feel like I vibe well with. So I'm going to be pushing for some pretty nice stuff. But anyway, we've talked enough about what I do. Let's talk about what Gunbreaker has to offer in the expansion. So I'm going to play the trailer in its normalcy, just let you guys experience and enjoy it. I don't know if this is balanced properly for myself. Let me make sure that I have something here really quick because I don't want this to be super crazy loud. I believe this should be right. Grab these headphones because being prepared isn't exactly something that is all set on my videos, but yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But let's run through the trailer one time really quick here. Make sure I don't have this slowed down. Yeah, it's normal, and we'll talk about everything that I see and kind of like what I expect. Got our standard combo there. After a rough divide and a bloodfest, gnashing combo, pretty standard. Solid barrel finishing it off. Of course, our blasting zone. Shield they've shown for everyone. REOE stuff. There's nothing too crazy here. I guess I'm already talking about what we're actually seeing on screen. Like, accidentally, I just can't help it. So that's really about all we have when it comes down to this trailer. There's not a whole lot that we actually saw that was new. And I'm going to go through the trailer really quick. I'm actually going to do it at full speed because it's not hard to talk about everything that they use here. So let's do it. So first thing we see is 3 cartridges. They go into tank stance. They bloodfest, get all 3 cartridges. Lightning shot into a rough divide. There's our gap closer, and then we start up our combo. Just our 1, our 2, and they go into a gnashing right then. So, it looks like gnashing still isn't going to cut our combo, which is good. And they finish off the combo with their solid barrel, so it gets another cartridge. We know that happened because we got a cartridge there. Blasting zone still seems to be normal. They do an AoE cartridge spender, then demon slice into a demon slaughter to get a cartridge back. Nothing too crazy there. We have our bow shock dot. Now this is one thing they mentioned in Gunbreaker stuff more to look at in a minute, but we have a follow-up to our blasting zone. I'm sorry, to our burst strike, which at first looks good, but actually is kind of bad when you think about it in a different perspective. Then we have our dual cartridge spender, and that's it. So let's talk about it. This is the tank adjustments. We're not going to talk about that specifically. We want to talk about the Gunbreaker stuff. Where is it? Here, no, Paladin, Warrior, Dark Knight, Gunbreaker. There we go. So, they talk about a few things here. So Savage Claw will get Talon now swap in for Gnashing Fang on the hotbar, reducing the number of inputs. This is a good thing, actually. Some people were talking about, like, this dumbs down the class, or, this is, them doing the whole one button thing from PvP. This literally, like, honestly, This doesn't actually matter. The only thing this does is it actually saves us hotbar space. You can't press the other buttons without pressing the buttons in a row anyway. So them being on the same button makes no difference. There's no extra, level of whatever you're getting from this. If anything else, it means that if you are spamming needlessly and not paying attention, you actually do worse. So it just saves us hotbar space, which is good when we're getting extra abilities, because then it gives them less of a reason to have to prune too terribly hard. So here's the one that I believe personally is not as good as people want to make it sound. Continuation will be able to be used following up a burst strike. Now, it's cool from the perspective of getting extra damage, get an extra move that looks flashy, and then gets an extra button to press. Here's the problem. We were able to use burst strike as a gunbreaker for the one issue you have as a gunbreaker, and that's off GCD space. And let me explain. So gunbreakers right now, you have this issue where you have so many off globals that you use because of continuation. If it's a bad time, whether you have to move the boss or anything along those lines, it really makes things difficult for you to do so because you don't have a lot of off GCD space without clipping. And for those of you guys who aren't really familiar with how that process works, basically, whenever you use an ability, you have your global cooldown that's rolling. You use that space for abilities that are off the global cooldown, basically either buffs, or I guess mitigation, or even moving the boss. That's one thing that gunbreakers are the worst at, is dealing with moving the boss because of how many off globals we actually have to deal with because of Gnashing Fang being up every 30 seconds, meaning we have to use continuations with part of a combo, as well as after that, every minute we have our full burst window. So it's quite a bit. And what we were able to do beforehand was fit in a burst strike even to the Gnashing Fang combo, because you could burst strike in between Gnashing Fang and not lose your combo. Actually able to do this with burst strike or with was it Sonic Break? I believe it's Sonic Break, yeah. So either with Burst Strike or Sonic Break, you could use these, and you would have basically you would force in an extra 2 off GCDs for yourself. Whether you can use those to move the boss or double weave cooldowns if you need to, you basically gave yourself some space. Now, two things we didn't see. We didn't see Sonic Break. Yeah, we didn't see Sonic Break, so we don't know if we still have that. And they basically are forcing us into a continuation after Burst Strike. So now you really don't get a free slot anymore. Now, again, it's cool because we could possibly getting more damage, but realistically, they basically gave us the one thing we didn't need, which is a reason to press continuation again. Now, this could not be a big issue because it could be like moved into charges or something along those lines, and we just don't know it yet. Maybe you can use these afterwards or anything along those lines, but I feel like a change like that would have been definitely talked about during the live letter, and it just wasn't. Hey guys, this is post edit Chrono. Sorry to interrupt your video, but something I thought about when we were thinking or we're talking about the continuation that we're going to be having on Burst Strike. At the moment, and granted, this is all related to potencies and balancing, so this is all subject to change, and they could, rectify this properly in the actual release of the game itself. But at the moment, Gunbreaker, as far as tanks go, is a little interesting when it comes to 2 targets, where all of its AoE is actually worth on 2 targets, and you actually want to go for its AoE outside of the Gnashing Fang combo. For Warrior and Dark Knight, this is a bit different, where their AoE combo to build is actually worth their Spender, Blood Spiller, as well as Warriors with Fell Cleave is not worth, I'm sorry, it does more damage over their AoE Spender. In this case, it would be Quietus or Decimate. So they actually use their builders, the AoE builders, but they spend in single target in 2 targets. At the moment, it's actually worth for Gunbreaker to use their Spender, Faded Circle, on 2 targets, because it's 320 potency, which would be 640 potency on 2 targets, as opposed to the 500 potency that is Burst Strike. However, if we get a continuation on Burst Strike, it may end up being the same situation where they start to homogenize the tanks a little bit more in a sense of optimization. Basically, it might still be worth to build on 2 targets, but spending may move to a single target situation where you're burst striking instead, seeing as all the continuations for our Gnashing Fang combo are all over 200 potency, and all they have to do is provide a continuation that's more than 140 potency, and bada bang, bada boom, it's better to burst strike with 2 targets than it is to Faded Circle as it is at the moment. Just something really quick I wanted to add in. Yeah, I'll let you guys get back to the video now. These are the only changes that they showed. And then, of course, a trait will raise the maximum number of cartridges to 3. Definitely useful since we have a dual cartridge spender, basically something that spends 2 cartridges. We're just kind of calling Burst Strike 2 at this point. But it does leave this issue where Gunbreaker ends up being super awesome for just pushing out as much damage as possible, but like the worst tank to move anything literally ever. Clipping is very easy. Downtime is very easy. Now, granted, a good tank isn't going to have issues with this, but we're looking from an average perspective. In an average perspective, this is going to be a problem, in my opinion. Now, some people aren't going to care. Like, they, press more buttons, super fun, not a big deal. But for me, as someone who raids consistently, this is like this is the one thing I didn't want to see for Gunbreaker, which was another reason to press continuation. I think it's something that's a part of the job itself overall. Follow up's gonna be part of the job, and it's something that we're gonna have to live with. But it's just, man, it is just not. It's not what I was hoping for. Now, after looking at something like Paladin or even Warriors changes, Warrior got some pretty good. What's I'm looking for here? Some pretty good quality of life changes. I feel like they just I don't want to say they made it worse, but they kind of went in reverse for Gunbreaker. So it shows a little bit of disconnection from the community, just a little bit, because I know I'm not the only Gunbreaker that's that's complained about this issue itself. I know other Gunbreakers have. So hopefully, SE hears these things, they see these things, and they move it forward for us. But that's really all I wanted to talk about as far as everything overall. There's not a lot to talk about with Gunbreaker. It's very straightforward. They didn't really show off a whole lot of things. Um, we'll run through this one more time just to finish it up. Now, they only show one gap closer, but they mentioned that a lot of the tanks are getting 3 charges on their gap closers. I don't know if the gap closers are still going to be dealing damage. Hopefully they don't, but if they do, then, it is what it is. It's another off global for us to fit in our first rotation, unfortunately. With proper planning, you can deal with the off global situation, man, but it's rough. Especially in a fight like T, where I have a lot of situations where I have to weave and move the boss a lot. It can be very, very apparent when you're doing it. Man, that move does look cool, but oh man. Anyway, guys, it's really hard to talk about today. I know this isn't really my normal style of content that I actually do, but I figured, hey, why not talk about Gunbreaker stuff, because I like to play Gunbreaker, and people like hearing me talk about certain things. So hey, either way, if you guys have any questions, feel free to toss them in the comments. Anything you guys are excited about, anything you guys want to see, feel free to let me know. Again, I might go over all of the tank stuff. You could watch the entire job action trailer and talk about everything that I see from a perspective of someone who just plays the game in general, maybe not all the different roles, but just plays the game in general. What you think, or what I think personally, because man, I have some some stuff to say about Sage and Reaper. Some things I'm excited for, and other things I'm like, oh, this is going to cause a bit of animosity for some people. Anyway, I have rambled on long enough. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Peace out.